Thanks. Hello. Okay, let's get our cameras right here. Got it. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for another class on UV resin. So if we have any beginners there joining us for the first time, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so excited to share this amazing craft with you. And I know that we have some diehard fans out there. Shout out to you guys for showing up. We really appreciate it. So for the beginners, we are going to walk you through everything you need to know about UV resin, how to use it with molds, and some really cool techniques using molds. And so that is our product here. This is UV resin. Comes in a little bottle like this, several different sizes available. And this is a liquid that turns into a solid whenever it comes into contact with UV light. So it's typically used either in molds. So this is like a silicone mold here that we're going to use today, or it's used in bezels, which are like little metal jewelry frames. We're also going to use this today. So you'll see how to use both of these. These are the two most common ways of making jewelry with UV resin, either in a mold or in a bezel. So we're going to cover both of those for you today. We're also going to show you how to use tints, how to create multiple colors using resin. We're going to show you how to use dried flowers. We're going to make some rings. We're going to have a good time. So you can go ahead and spotlight down here. These are the projects that we're going to make today. So you can see we have kind of this fall leaf bracelet that has multiple colors and some glitter in there. We have, here, let me click that. We have these new cocktail rings. So you can see that they have a little bit of like a bump at the top for you to add some cool things into. And then we're going to make this necklace, which is clear. And that has little branches and some sand at the bottom. So it kind of looks like a coral reef. We just love the colors in this fall look. So the other cool thing about today's class is we are going to be featuring products that are brand new in Michaels. So this mold for the cocktail rings, this is brand new. This extra deep bezel, you can see how deep that is, and I'll show you more about that in a minute, is brand new. And then the resin that we use to make this bracelet is new. This is a soft type resin. So let me show you. This is cured, but it is still wobbly like this. It cures, soft type resin cures to this sort of gummy bear texture. We actually used it on the rings too, because we thought rings might be cool and more comfortable on your finger if they had some give to them. So those are some of the new products that we're going to be featuring today. And so let me move this out of the frame here and move this away. And these are the products that we're going to start with, or the projects that we're going to start with, which are these cocktail rings. Okay, so let me walk you through the supplies that you need to do this. So first, this blue thing here is actually a silicone mat. I have a smaller one here. This was the standard size that we introduced about a year ago. This large size, which is larger than the camera angle, is also new in store. So it's an extra large. You want this to kind of protect your work surface. And notice that it's silicone. Resin does not stick to silicone once it cures. So it is the perfect thing for protecting your work surface and protecting your pieces as well. The next thing you'll need is a way to cure the resin. So this is a UV lamp, also sold at Michaels. And if I hit the button, you can see that that turns on. So this is a 9-watt UV lamp. And every time I hit that button, it runs it for a minute. And this plugs in to a USB. So that would be the USB in like your phone charger or your laptop or any other sort of power bank that has a USB input. And then, so let me show you what the resin is. So these are both 25 milliliter bottles of UV resin. This is the classic resin. And so you can see on the bottle, it says hard type. This is the classic UV resin you find in most projects that you see online. Probably 95% of projects that you see use a hard type resin. So that just means that it cures to a hard, here's a cured piece here. It cures to a hard plastic finish. This is the soft type resin. So you can see soft type. So this one's newer in stores, and this is the one that cures to like that gummy bear texture that we're going to be using today. So that is the resin. So those are some of your basics. Also, some wood sticks. We'll use these for mixing. And then I have a bunch of silicone mixing cups over here. Also, do we have the mixing kit? I want to just show you. This mixing kit comes with a silicone cup and then an assortment of different stirrers. Now, the UV resin, you don't have to mix two parts of it together like you do with some epoxy resins, two-part resins. This pours out of the bottle ready to use. So really, we're just going to be using this mixing cup to mix tint in there or to mix glitter in there. So I have a whole bunch of these. And again, silicone, so it won't stick. It also has this great little spout so that I can really like kind of squeeze this and get a really detailed pour. And then I have some bits and bobbles. I have tints. I have some glitter. We're going to use all of it. But let's start with our cocktail ring mold. So this is what it looks like in the stores. And you'll see that our molds all come with a made up. This is a made up ring in the corner so you can see what it makes. And then on the back, it shows you the positive shapes that you'll get out of this mold. So this cocktail ring is in sizes 5 through 8. It gives you some directions, but this is what it looks like in stores. And I have one open. I believe I do. No, I gotta open it. Okay, let's open it. Also, this plastic that everything comes packaged in, don't throw this away. This has some really amazing uses within the resin. So hang on to that, and we'll do a class on that coming up. But here is the mold. So right off the bat, you'll see how clear it is. There are a lot of different kinds of silicone molds out there, from opaque molds that you use for candy making. You do not want to use an opaque mold with UV resin. Remember that this cures with light. So if the light can't reach it, it won't cure. So that's why you want to use a clear mold. And you can see that the sizes of the rings are kind of clearly marked there. Okay, this is the first ring we're going to make. And this is using that soft. You can see what I can kind of bend it. So I'm going to start with a cup, a silicone cup. I'm going to go in with my soft resin into the cup, and I'm going to pour, I'm just kind of eyeballing how much resin it's going to take for me to fill up one of these molds. And then I want to go in with some gold flakes. So see these, they're like gold shards. These are really fun because you get like kind of an irregular little sparkle in there. And then I can just pour this in, and you can put as much as you want in there. It depends on how much clear you want to show and how much gold you want to show. I'm going to kind of really like load this up. Maybe a little more. And I can add other glitters in there. I could add like a fine glitter if I want, but we're going to use fine glitter in the bracelet. So here I have my wood stick, and I just want to mix that in. Now I will tell you that the soft resin is a little thicker than the regular hard resin. You can see how it's slow to drip off of the stick here. A little bit thicker, but not hard to work with. Okay, so I'm going to go in with a size 7 here, and I can just pinch this and fill this area up. Now, you don't have to worry about being too neat here because this is a clear This is a clear material and it's not going to start curing until I add UV light to it. So I can control this process completely. And so it may look a little messy. See how I'm just like kind of putting that on there. It will look a little messy, but have faith with me. I also keep a paper towel off here to the side that I use to just kind of wipe off my stick in between. And now that I have the resin in there, I need to manipulate it. So I'm going to bring this camera up a little bit because I cannot clear. There we go. So I just want to take my time, get this down into the channel of the ring. The back of this ring is a small, let me show you a profile. See, the back of this ring is very thin. So I've got to get that resin into that thin channel. So I do that just by kind of poking around. I can also kind of manipulate the mold itself. See, if I put my stick in there and just move it, I'm manipulating it so that the resin gets into all the little crevices. And I can kind of scrape it off of the top part here. And I'm going pretty quickly on this because I want to make sure we can get through all of our projects in this class. I'm going to add a little bit more resin. Just a little bit that was left in my cup. Okay. All right, now I can just kind of clean up around the edges here. And I'm just kind of scraping away and wiping it on a paper towel. If you've added a little too much, it looks like I added a little too much here in the center part. So I'm just picking it up with the wood stick and just kind of wiping it off. So do not be afraid. If you pour too much, you can always fix it. Okay, and then I always like to put my stick in there and just make sure, like I said, that it gets to all of the nooks and crannies. Okay, all right, so that's about ready. The other step I can do is I can go in with kind of a wet paper towel or a baby wipe. Baby wipes work really well for this. And just with no pressure at all, just kind of come over the top of this. And that will get any extra little bits. Okay, all right, we are ready to cure. So I can bring my lamp in, hit the button, and put that under. So cure times. This usually has to cure for about 2 to 4 minutes to get a really hard cure. Depending on what you put in it. If you put a lot of really opaque tints, these are some examples of the tints. If you put a lot of these in there and it's more opaque, you're going to need more time to cure it because that light has to struggle to get through all of the tint or all of the glitter that you put in there. So you're going to need 2 to 4 minutes, maybe even 5 minutes for something that's heavily filled. The other option is to put it in sunlight. So curing in sunlight is actually my favorite way of curing. I live in Southern California, so we have sunlight all the time. And that makes it really easy. You just get this deep, pure cure from sunlight that no UV lamp can kind of replicate. All right, so here it has run for a minute. It has an automatic shut off after a minute, so I can hit that button again. I do encourage you to use the chat function when you are chatting. I can see your comments. I can't always read them in time, but we do have moderators from our company that will help to answer your questions. So a question just came through from Crystal who asked, can you over cure? In my experience, no, you can't overcure. I've accidentally left things outside for like a whole day. And the only thing that you'll see might happen is if you've added tint or if you've added things that are dyed, like dyed flowers. These are examples of some dyed flowers we're going to be using in the next project. Sometimes though the sun can kind of bleach out those colors. You may even find that under a UV lamp. It can kind of bleach out the colors if it's under there for a long time, but it shouldn't affect the piece itself. And another question from Elizabeth, how will I know that it's been under the light long enough? So this has gone for 2 minutes. I just started it on another cycle here. Really, you know, just by kind of feeling it. So this I can show you is hardened. Here's a look at the back of it. So this has hardened. I mean, this is soft type resin. But you can see that how easy this is going to pop out of there. Like this is ready to go. Maybe not. Over here, it wasn't fully cured. So let me pop that back down. Let me let that go for another minute or two. Do we have any other questions in the chat that I might have missed there?
Hi, Stephanie. Yes. How long is there a certain amount of time under sunlight?
Yes. Under sunlight, I'd say it's a really sunny day, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You know, if it's a cloudy day, it will still cure in a cloudy day. As long as you're getting some UV rays, maybe you need up to 20 minutes outside on a cloudy day. But in direct sunlight, about 5 minutes. Thank you for your question. Whoever asked that. Okay, so while we're waiting for that one to be done, I want to show you the other 2 rings that we have made with that same mold. So this one has those same kind of corally looking branches. This has some dried flowers. So let me show you those. I'm gonna run that one more time. These are the dried flowers we're going to be using in the next step. All right, so while that goes, I'm actually going to take some of those flowers, move this out of the way a little bit, and I'm going to start prepping these. So this is what they look like. We have a full selection of dried and preserved flowers in the UV resin collection at Michael's. So there are sort of branchy ones like this that are more 3D. And then there are flat flowers as well. So what I'm going to do is I can just kind of pick off some flowers. And I want to keep that stem intact because we're going to be using that stem in our necklace. See how cool that looks even when the flowers are off of it. I love the way that looks. Okay. All right. So those are ready. And I have my little branch that I'm going to save off to the side. And let's see how this one's going. All right, so you can see how easy it is to pop out. And I want to show you exactly what it looks like, the warts and all. So you can see I overfilled the mold a little bit. And so I get this little like flash. I can just peel that right off. And if I can't peel it off, I can go in with scissors and cut that off. There's a piece on the side here that I'm going to use scissors on. And I can just keep working that to get all this little flashy areas off. Okay, and then here's our ring. You can see another little flashy part there. That's a piece of foil. Can you see that? Yeah, there you can see it. It's a little piece of foil that's sticking up. I'm just going to go in with some little nippers here, nip that right off. And now I have a custom made ring. All right. So in the same way, you can make these. These are dried flowers. I'm actually not going to go through that whole process because it's very similar to what we just saw. Let me move these off to the side, and I want to jump to the bracelet because I want to make sure we have enough time. Okay, the bracelet. Let me show you a couple. The bracelet is made of 4 of these connectors, these little leaf connectors. And those come from this mold, which are all different bracelet or necklace connectors. Actually, I'm wearing a necklace. Oh, where is it? I'm wearing a necklace that was made from here. So here's the leaf one. This is what we're going to use. But this mold is perfect for making bracelets. So I'm going to show you just like, for example, this bracelet with a cross, and then we did a simple cord back. All right, so you'll notice that these bracelet connectors here have multiple colors. There's actually 4 colors in here. There's a green, there's a yellow, an orange, and this dark orange color, kind of a brown. So we are going to mix all of those colors. So I have 4 different cups here. Whenever we mix tints in these classes, we always get the question, do we have a color mixing guide? And we don't actually. But if you feel like a class on mixing colors or color theory would be helpful, let us know in the comments, and we will plan to do a class like that for you guys. So here I'm just putting, I don't know, equal parts. And again, I'm using the soft resin. The soft resin works really well for bracelets because your wrist has bends in it. So it makes it nice to be able to have your bracelet bend with your wrist. All right, so I'm going to put yellow in 1, 2, 3 of these. I'm going to put yellow in all 4 of them. And then I have a little Post-it note here. I started doing this technique to use for the blue. These tints are very, very concentrated, especially the blue for some reason is ultra concentrated. You want to shape these too before you use them. I'm going to put just a tiny little dot of blue here because even though these are very warm colors that we are mixing, you do need a tiny bit of blue to make that brownish color. All right, and then let me go in with my red. Put a little bit of red there and a lot more red here. And let's see, that one's going to be our green. Now here is my blue. And take just a tiny little bit on my stick and mix out. I'm going to even do smaller. Better, like that tiny little bit is all you need. And see what we get. And I can add more, but you can't take it away. So there, I can see that I want to add more. Okay, so there's our green. I can make it more green. I can add a little more blue in there. And also maybe another drop of yellow. And that will just kind of intensify the opacity. And you do want to make sure you mix that in the whole way. All right, over here, wipe off my stick. This one is just going to be our yellow. We're going to add glitter to all these, by the way. What is a resin project without glitter? Nothing. So the more glitter, the better. Here's 1 drop of yellow, 2 drops of red. And then to deepen that, I can add the tiniest smidgen of blue. Well, that didn't do anything. You don't want to add too much blue, but there we go. I can even add that little bit that I saved to the side. And that will just deepen up the tone until it's a little more on the brownish side. All right, and then our standard orange here. Okay, our colors are looking pretty good. Now I'm going to add glitter. This is ultrafine glitter. It comes in these handy little containers, and I'm just going to put some glitter in. And I'm putting kind of varying amounts in each. I put a lot in the green, but you can add as much as you want. The glitter does not have to be mixed in the whole way. So it'll have almost a swirly appearance just to begin with. All right, our colors are ready. You guys still with us? I haven't been looking at the chat, but please ask your questions. Yellow and red create orange. That is totally correct. All right, let's bring our mold in. And so you're going to make 4 of these leaves. And you can see even in these 2 examples that there's not really a rhyme or reason of how these are poured in. Leaves, autumn leaves are that way too. Some parts have, oh, here's another one. See, this one, we concentrated the darker colors at the tips of the leaves. This one, we use all 4 colors. This one, you can see how the green and the orange kind of swirl together. It is your own artistic expression, how you want to add these in here. But I would say just have fun with it. So I can pour it in, or I can use my stick, kind of drop it in. Add some green there. I'm going to add some green here. And also keep in mind that when you're using a mold, the bottom, this part of the mold will be the top of your piece. So you should be more concerned about what the bottom looks like than the top of it. All right, while I add these in here, Jen, do we have any questions that have come up that I totally missed?
Just if you could talk about the leftover resin left in the cups, if you could reuse it.
Sure. If we have time today, I'm going to try to make time today. I'm going to show you what you can do with your leftover resin. That's really cool. All right. And now finally, our yellow, I'm going to use that to kind of just fill in. I want to make sure that I get around these end parts here, because that will create a hole for us to connect. All right, so that is done. I'm going to go in with the pointy end of my stick, and I just want to make sure, again, you've got to get it in the nooks and crannies. So these leaves have very pointy tips. So I just want to make sure, again, because this is a thicker liquid, I want to make sure that the liquid has flowed to those tips. All right, that looks completely filled to me. Before I turn on the lamp, 2 things you can do. You can lift this up and look underneath, because underneath is what you're going to have at the top once you demold this. So I like the way it looks. We're good. The other thing before I hit the button is I'm going to move these, see my leftovers. I'm going to move these off to the side because I don't want that light to hit them. And now I can turn that on. So cleanup of those cups. I'm going to show you how to use your leftover resin. You can use it in obviously making another piece of it. But if you have any leftover resin in the cup and you want to cure it, you can just cure it in the light. And curing it and then popping it out of the silicone cup is a way easier cleanup than like going in and trying to like scoop that liquid out. It's much easier just to cure it and pop it out. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to move this off to the side here, and these guys can share. Okay, so getting the next step ready. Once I have my 4 leaf connectors, I'm going to connect them with jump rings. So these are available in the jewelry making department at Michael's. These are 7mm jump rings. It's a really good kind of larger size. It's not too tiny, very easy to work with. So I want to get some of those out of the package here. And let me lift this up. Okay, so we have jump rings, and then we're also going to need a clasp to clasp our bracelet. And I have one right here. This is just a lobster clasp. And those are all of the parts needed. Okay, so this ran for a minute. I'm going to hit that again, run that some more. And I have my 3 leaf connectors already made. And I'm going to show you how to connect them. Move this up, keep this in frame. So we want to connect all of these ends, these 2 parts right there. And so you do that using a jump ring. This is one of the basic building blocks of jewelry making. And this is how you connect. It's called a jump ring because you jump from one item to another, one thing that you're connecting to another. So here's the jump ring. Oh, that is not in focus. Oh, where's the focus? Kind of there. So each jump ring has a break at the top. So you just find that break, get some pliers, situate them on either side of that break. And then you move one toward you and one away from you. You're bending the metal. This is open now. So I use that opening to slide on my 1 leaf connector, slide on my other leaf connector, and then I close it in the same way that I open it, just opposite. And that closes it. And now we have a string of 2 of these. I think this is done, kind of poking at it. All right, let's connect this one. So again, jump ring, find the break in it, 2 pliers. You can also just kind of hold one if you don't have 2 pliers with your finger. And on larger jump rings, you can do that, just holding it with your finger. All right, slide that on, slide this on, and close it. So now we have 3 joined together. All right, so let's see what we have here. See if it's ready. Kind of pop that up. No, it's not ready. Look at that, it's liquid. It stayed liquid on that side. So it's not quite ready. I jumped the gun, but let's see if we can save it. Just gonna move that stuff off to the side. Okay, so this is an example of do as I say, not as I do. You do want to make sure, especially when you're using tints, that you give it plenty of time to cure. A question came through, can you overcook the resin? In my experience, not really. It may bleach out your color a little bit, but it should remain the same. Okay, so let's just let that go. I'm going to add my clasp to this one. And I do that again with a jump ring. Open the jump ring, add it onto your last loop, and then use your lobster clasp onto the jump ring. And close it up. A question came through from Anna. How do you deal with air bubbles? Air bubbles actually are not as common in UV resin as they are in other types of resin. But in the next time I pour something, let's see, what's the next project? When I pour something, we'll see if we get a bubble and I'll show you how to deal with it. Usually you can just pop them. It's usually a single air bubble that you can just kind of go in with the pointy end of your stick and just pop it. But we'll see if I have any. Okay. That has gone for another almost 2 minutes. Here we go. Here's my piece that needs a little bit of cleanup. You can see that it's kind of have some areas where I need to chop off that flash here. Over here. There we go. And then I just want to make sure, because this is the end that I took out of the mold too quickly. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that still has a hole in it, and it does. All right, so let's add this to another question came in. Oops, so I'm taking my jump ring, adding this here, closing my jump ring. And then on the end, you have one open jump ring. This will allow you to close the bracelet. Question just came through asking, do you have to use the resin on that same day, or can you save it? No, you can absolutely save it. We have saved a piece of liquid. We wanted to test just under regular fluorescent light. We wanted to test how long it would stay liquid, and it just stays liquid. If you keep it covered with no UV light getting to it, it will stay liquid. I mean, I'm going to say forever, but don't quote me on that. Just at least as long as our test was. And here's our bracelet. Very cool. It fits very comfortably on the wrist because it can bend. And that's the benefit of using soft resin. All right, now here's our cup that was under there. It probably needs to go. I can tell just from squeezing this that in the really deep parts, it's still a little bit liquid. All right, so I'm just going to keep working that. The next project we're going to do is this necklace, and this uses a bezel. So far, the projects we've done use molds. So this is how you work with bezels. Bezels are just jewelry frames, and this is our brand new bezel that's an extra deep bezel. So you can see from the side how deep that is, and compare that with, these are our standard bezels. It's almost double deep. So it allows you to put more dimensional things in there. Bring this in just a little bit. Okay, so the first thing you need to do with any bezel is use the tape. So this has a leaf on it, but this is a special resin tape. It's actually a polyester tape that we use with resin. So here's what it looks like in the store. And this allows you to create with open back bezels. There are different kinds of bezels. Let me show you what I need. I just saw one over here. This, in jewelry world, this is also a bezel, by the way. It just has a back to it. But resin allows you to create things that are see-through. So that is why most resin bezels you see are see-through like this. But this is also a bezel. So since it is see-through, we need to contain the resin, and we do that with this tape. So I'm just going to cut off a little piece of it. And with the sticky side up, we have a question from Claire. Thank you for your question. She asked, can you use packing tape? You can use packing tape, but it will be very, very difficult for you to get that off of the bezel once you're done. This is sort of a low tack tape because once you cure UV resin in it, it intensifies the tackiness. And so even this, which was so easy to get on, you'll see when I take it off at the end of the project how much stickier it is. So probably packing tape is not the best thing to use. All right, so you want to have that sticky side up, and I've really made sure that that tape is stuck to my bezel, because that is what is going to make sure the resin doesn't fly out anywhere. Okay, so we're going to use plain old hard type UV resin for this. So I go in straight from the bottle. And anytime you're using a bezel, the first pour that you do should be just like the back of it. So this is like a pre-fill. So then I go in with my stick and I want to make sure that that touches all of the edges. And we're going to pre-cure it. Helps to put a little corner of it up. That way it doesn't stick to your fingers all the time. Okay, so we're going to pre-cure, keep this under there. And then here is what we're making. So let me gather my supplies for that. I need the branches and I need some yellow flowers, and I also need some sand. And I need a drink of water. Okay. Where'd my branches go? Okay, here's my branches. I have my yellow little flowers here, which I have some of here. So this is also kind of a branchy deal. So I have one of those. And then I have a little bag of sand. Oops, just spilled that. Okay, that's still going. All right, so that's gone for a minute. Whenever you're just pre-curing, you don't need more than a minute on that. Now, one thing you will notice is that when it cures, it heats up. So this is actually warm. So just be careful. It's not so warm that it's gonna burn you, but just be careful. All right, so I'm gonna mix up some sand with some resin. A little bit of resin. And this can be sand that you have brought back from a vacation, or they also sell sand at Michael's. So you can see I'm putting quite a lot of sand in there. I'm hoping that once I mix this up, it's like a gritty texture. See how thick that is? If it's thicker, I can just kind of glob it where I want it to go. So I want to focus this toward the bottom, like it has a sandy bottom in the ocean here. Now I'm going to start trimming. Actually, I can cure that sand in place. Let me move it, spread it out a little more. I'm going to give that a little cure just so that I don't have to worry about it flowing. A question from Eileen just came up. Can you use charms? You can use charms in a lot of ways with UV resin. If you have any charms that have open areas, you could absolutely fill those open areas with resin. You can put metal pieces, charms down inside the resin, use that as another filler piece. Okay, I just did a really quick cure on that just to make sure it doesn't flow anymore. All right, here is my branch. I do need to trim it a little bit here. Now I have two branches. I'm going to kind of place these. You might want to use tweezers for this step. Might make it a little easier. Okay, and then I'm going to add some branches of my yellow flower as well. Let me get my tweezers. These flowers, especially the flat ones, can be very, very delicate. All right. All right, that's about where I want them to go. And now I can fill up almost to the top with just more resin straight out of the bottle. When you're pouring it on top of sort of 3D elements like this, you may get some air bubbles from the resin being trapped underneath. So just be mindful of that. But really, I'm just filling this up to the top. And I'm going to put a little more sand here so that we don't see all of this ugly business down there. And that is covered with sand. Question came through from Peggy. Thank you for your question. She asked, can you put fabric into a bezel or into really UV resin? Yes, you can absolutely use fabric. The thing with fabric is it will get watermarked. I'm going to show you a piece of fabric that we did. Okay, this is actually a piece we made during a Christmas class, and we just used satin ribbon. And then we use the UV resin to attach the satin ribbon, but can you see where the resin was, how it's darker right there and there? So fabric can get watermarked. If you're covering the whole fabric, you obviously won't see that change in color. But if you're just covering part of the fabric, it will darken it slightly. Okay, so this here, I can just use my wood stick to make sure what position these things are in is the position that I want, because they're about to get locked into place. I also want to make sure that all these little buds are below the surface of the resin. And all right, I think I'm just going to cure this and then do one final pass at it. All right, so I'm going to cure this into place. The back. Okay, a question from Janet about the side that you're working on. Thank you for asking that question, because it's different with bezels. All right, so that when you're using a mold, as I said before, the front of your piece will be the bottom. So the reason that the bottom is the front of your piece is when you take something out of a mold, you're going to have like a very smooth side and a not so smooth side. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm going to try to put this at an angle, but oh, there you can see. It's not so smooth, but this side is just perfect and beautiful. So this is the front that you want. Now with a bezel, it's actually opposite. As I was building this necklace, I wanted to make sure that the components are at the top. So it's opposite. If you're using a mold, your front is the bottom. If you're using a bezel, your front is the front. All right, so that's gone for about a minute. Now I did get a little air bubble in here that formed as can you see this here? That formed as it was curing. Usually that means that behind these flowers, I had a little air bubble in there that I just didn't see. And so that kind of causes that to become more visible as it cures. But let's call it, I just watched the Bob Ross documentary. I'm obsessed with him. So let's call it a happy accident. And we're just gonna roll with it. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my sand again And I want to cover all of those little branchy parts there with some sand. So it looks like they're like stuck down inside the sand. And it's your choice if you want to bring the level of the sand above the level of the bezel to make it more of 3D, or if you want to make sure it's sunk down in. I think that I want it sunk down in, so I'm going to take off some of the sand. Okay. Let's cure. And I'm keeping this guy over there just so he gets like the extra UV rays, but he's probably, now this was the soft resin, so it obviously behaves differently, but you can see the easy cleanup. And then don't throw this away. You can take some scissors to this, chop this up, put this down inside of another piece, creating like your own confetti, custom color confetti. That is cool. Anything that's left, you can just kind of, just comes right out. A little bit in the bottom that was still a slightly liquid. So that, oops, that is easiest way to clean up. Okay, we have just a few minutes left. We're going to show you how to turn this into a necklace, but as that is curing, let's put that one more time. Let me bring this up. Okay, so if you're on social media, we would love to see what you're making with our products. Go ahead and post your creations using the hashtag UV Resin Craft and hashtag Make It with Michaels for anything you make using products bought at Michaels. You can also connect with me personally on Instagram at Stephanie Menor Creates. Go ahead and tag me in your creations. It makes my day to see what people make. I just love it. We had a question pop up. I didn't see the whole question, but it was about our flashlight. Do we have that flashlight here? I'm going to grab one for you. So we just introduced a flashlight, which is another way of curing. Here it is. So a flashlight is really useful because it doesn't have a cord. And so you can bring the light to your project. Instead of, in this example, I have to really bring my project to the light. You know, it only has, you know, so long of a cord. So this helps. I also like to use a flashlight for, oh, thank you. Here it is out of the package. I also like to use the flashlight for, here it is. You can see that that's on, for curing in between. Like that first step that I did where I just put a little bit of sand in there. It'd be nice just to shoot that with the flashlight instead of putting it under the full lamp. So yes, the flashlight is new in stores. This is not as powerful as this lamp, and it's certainly not as powerful as the sun. So for, you know, cures that are going to take several minutes, it's easier just to put it under a lamp, but I really like that flashlight for curing in between. All right, so here's our piece, and I'm going to peel this tape off, and it is really, really sticky. You can see what it looks like. And this piece of tape is reusable, by the way. It will get stickier the more that you use it. Okay. All right, so let me show you how to connect that to a necklace. These necklaces are sold at Michaels. They are already made, and that just makes it easier. It's easier doing that than buying, you know, bulk chain and then connecting them with jump rings here. So whenever we can buy something pre-made, we like to do that. All right, so I can connect this a couple ways. First of all, if this loop is big enough, I can just put this down inside there and string it onto the necklace like that. If the loop isn't big enough, we can use a jump ring, Or what we can do, actually, what we can do is remove this jump ring and make it small enough for it to fit through there. So let's do that. So I'm just twisting this around till I find where the break is. Here it is. Open that up. Take the end off and string that through. And then just connect it again. These tiny little chain links. There we go. Now I lost this. Okay, and there we go. There's our necklace. Okay, so in the few minutes that we have left, I have a little bit of show and tell here to show you some similar projects that we've done. So the leaf bracelet that we made, where did she go? Oh, here it is. The leaf bracelet that we made. Here's another example using that same technique in just a different mold. And you can see the multiple colors, how pretty that looks. We strung that on some chain and made a beautiful dangle earring. A question from Claire, is it hard to use a more narrow bezel? It's not actually. Like these bezels, this is actually this piece, we used a piece of paper and put that down. You can put almost anything inside the resin. This uses a piece of paper, but this thin bezel, it's not harder to work with. You just want to make sure you're using flat things in there. So flat flowers, glitter works great. We also made these mini tiny little pumpkins. Look how cute these are with some wire wrapping for the little stem. We made these using the bead mold. Okay. Let's see, we have tons of different rings over here. These are just made with glitter. And this is our original ring mold. And I'm going to show you what that looks like too. So this just makes a very plain band, and this comes in 6 sizes. The cocktail ring makes 4 different sizes. This plain ring makes 6 different sizes, and it's sizes 4 through 9. So we made those using glitter. We made some using different polymer clay slices. So this one has like sweets. All of these are available at Michael's, of course. Some little polymer clay slices, some polymer clay sprinkles, some polymer clay fruit slices. And those are all in this other new item, which has all these different polymer clay slices in it, from little happy faces and fruits, flowers, rainbows. These are really, really fun. This one uses some stars. So that's polymer clay. Here we did kind of a nautical theme. This one just has some like pearls and little metal charms in there. This one we did sand at the bottom and embedded some more metal charms in there. And then using flowers and leaves. Here's some examples of that. This just uses some little flowers here. This uses flowers and little flaky parts, gold parts. There, what else do we have? I think those are all the different. Oh, this one, we did this as an experiment. We just took a piece of silver cording. I think I cut this off of a gift box and thought, well, what happens if you put that inside of a mold? And well, this is what you get. So there is a lot of cool things that you can sink down inside the resin. A couple more projects before we go. I just want to show you. Here's an example of using dried flowers in the mold. Here we took one single dried flower, we cut it in half and made earrings, very pretty boutique pieces here. Here's a hoop earring that we made using the flowers. And then similarly, here is, we wrapped some seed beads around it. You can see the back and the side of that too. Okay. All right, that's all I have. I will leave you with this for you to post your creations. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. We are doing these classes every 2 weeks, so please come back. We will have a whole new slate of projects for you and cool inspiration for you guys to create on your own. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Janet.